Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for October 1. Yes, it's October 2022, the Simply Staggering edition. And we begin with that story from about Barclays from Reuters. The British bank agreed to pay yet another fine, this time $361 million, for a penalty over internal control failures related to unregistered offer and sale of an unprecedented amount of securities. The U.S. SEC Division of Enforcement head Gurbeer Gurwal said that the conduct here was simply staggering. So, once again, Barclays, banks behaving badly, can't seem to get their act together and have a massive internal controls failure, which the head of SEC enforcement calls simply staggering, and another $361 million. Begin to wonder when this recidivist bank will ever pay a real penalty. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, David Smagala reporting that FINRA, Wall Street's self-regulator, has for the first time provided guidance to its member broker-dealers on potential penalties it could impose for violating rules related to money laundering. Under the new guidelines, FINRA could impose a fine ranging from $10,000 to $310,000 for small firms that haven't done a reasonable amount of monitoring work to report suspicious transactions. Fines for the same violation could be imposed starting at $50,000 for mid firms, and large firms have no upper limit. So FINRA is providing guidance on AML violations. Next up, from Bloomberg, McKinsey and an ex-McKinsey partner have been added to a criminal corruption case in South Africa. It involves the rails and ports operator Transnet, and this, of course, relates to the capture issue that McKinsey's alleged to have assisted the prior government of South Africa in President Zuma. Of course, McKinsey said they did nothing wrong. It was only the nefarious conduct of their ex-partner and head of their South Africa office. So it's going to be interesting to see what, if anything, happens to McKinsey from an FCPA or other anti-corruption perspective. It's noted that they have cooperated to date. And finally, from the world of football, I'm not quite sure this is corruption, but it really relates to how you treat your workers and how institutional justice is critical in every business. And that is Tua Tagovailoa. Sorry if I butchered that, but the Miami Dolphins quarterback who was injured in the game against Buffalo, he was sent back out to play, having been clearly concussed the week before and suffered a horrific injury last night. Where were the doctors? The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.